Hello, everybody. Looks like we are live. Let me give it a minute to pop up over on YouTube. I think this is going to be a really interesting live stream. So I'm going to give a couple of caveats before we get into this. Hi, Malka. Hey, Renee. Hi, Carissa. Hi, Beth. Welcome. So we're going to talk about money today, and we're going to talk about what does it actually look like to be a YouTuber in the book space? What do finances look like? How is that affecting me specifically? We're going to talk about some specific numbers. It's been a few years since I've done this. A few years back, I did something similar, talking more transparently about numbers and finances. And I think it's about time to do it again. I had been thinking about this and kind of reached out to some of my patrons, and they had some fantastic feedback for me. And I thought, as we are in a new year, Happy New Year, everybody, this seemed like a great time to do it. And of course, because I'm me, I have a slideshow for you. So, again, going to give people a couple minutes to pop in here, and then we are going to get started. And I'm going to say hi at the beginning, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the content, and then I will have time at the end for questions. I also have put some limits on the comments section for this live just because of the nature of it. Not that I don't want other people talking to me in the comments if they don't want to, but at least in the live chat, I did do that. So hi, Kirsten. Hey, Brianna. Hi, Cool Gamer. Yes, I have a slideshow. I know some people are very excited about this. Hey, Beth. Happy New Year. With charts. I don't have charts, but stay tuned for when I do my big reading stats video. I will have lots of charts for you then. But I do have some numbers that we're going to talk about. So let me pull this up. Hey, Jenna. All right, so let's talk about money, the truth about finances on YouTube, and my 2023 plans. A couple of caveats. Number one, there's a lot of variation in terms of how finances work for different people. This is going to give you a snapshot of what it looks like for me, some of the challenges, and we'll talk about some of the variation with this, and also given that variation, my plans moving forward. If you saw my goals video, you might have heard me say that I was considering looking for a different job and that my content might change. And that is still definitely on the table. However, again, after chatting with some of my patrons, I was like, you know what, maybe this would be a good time to be a little transparent about where things are at for me and see how things go. See if I can make some changes that make doing this full-time sustainable. Now, there are a lot of booktubers where this is not their full-time job. There's a lot of booktubers who do this as a side gig. They have other full-time jobs that pay their bills. And I do know too that I'm really privileged in that I have a partner who makes enough income that I've been able to do this, which is not something that everybody can do, but I do work full-time at this. And we're going to see if I can make that something sustainable. I've been doing it for 5.5 years. My kids are now in school. I got to make some decisions in the coming year. And it's not just me. This applies to, all your favorite creators. And hopefully this will give you a little bit of insight into what it really takes, how hard it is to make income doing this kind of thing full time. And yeah, I hope this is helpful. So uh hey, Happy New Year. Hi, Zeely. Hey, Abby. Happy New Year. Hey, Michael. Thank you. Thanks for the sticker. Hey, Heather. Um, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Also, Heather, you can moderate. I think we'll be okay on comments, but I do hope this is helpful for people because I think there's definitely misconceptions. So, yeah. All right, here we go. Here's the agenda. So we're going to talk a little bit about financial transparency and creative work. I do believe that people should be paid for their labor. People doing creative work, people doing the kind of work we do on BookTube. I think that is something that is valuable and tends to be undervalued. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Here's the agenda with my slideshow today. We're going to talk a little bit about what I made in 2022 as a YouTuber financially and also in terms of content. We're going to talk about the state of AdSense. This is the way that you make money from YouTube, and there are some things I've noticed about that this year that I think is important to talk about. We're going to talk about Patreon. We're going to talk about sponsorships briefly, and we're going to talk about some of my plans and goals and things that I am doing in the coming year. And then I will have space for questions people might have at the end. Again, I'm not going to be interacting too much with the comment section. You're welcome to chat amongst yourselves if you would like to, but I'm going to try to stick to this until I reach the end, just for the sake of replay value and whatnot. So, what I made in 2022. Let's start with a look at the content I created in 2022 because I was actually, I mean, I know I make, listen, I know I make a lot of content, but when I went back and started doing the math on this, even I was surprised at how much I do. I was like, oh, wow, 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 wow. So this is worth talking about. So in 2022, I created 129 edited videos, 61 shorts, 48 live streams. Many of these were organized with other people, doing read alongs, organizing readathons, doing discussions with authors and other YouTubers on important topics. I reviewed 395 books this year with an emphasis on Black, Indigenous, and person of color authors and queer authors. And I think that work is really important. This is some of the work that I did this year. And in addition to that, I also did Chapter 3 podcast, where we had episodes every 2 weeks. I did some other TikToks and I did patron and member exclusive videos. So I made a lot of content this year, right? I made probably upwards of 300 videos, probably well over 300 videos just in this year in 2022. That's the amount of content I created. It's a lot of work. I work full time on this. Probably more than what I would be working in terms of hours for a full time job. Thank you. Yes. uh, but what is the financial side of that? And I think people sometimes think that it's a lot more than it is. So let's talk about it. This is what I earned in 2022. This is actually less than the year before. I earned $10,077 for this channel. There's a little bit more from the podcast that I'm not including, although that is really just covering costs for the podcast. So it's not a lot. I think last year I took more sponsorships, and so I earned a little bit more than that. But that is where we're at. And that's not a great number for sustainability, which I think is obvious. Um, it, yeah. So we're going to talk more about this. So let's talk about specifically where this income is coming from. So some of it is coming from YouTube. So AdSense, that's the revenue you get from ads that play at the beginning of your videos. Some of that is coming from channel memberships, a little bit. And the amount that I made in 2022 from that is $4,423. From Patreon, I made $5,254 in 2022. So I am making more money from Patreon than I am from YouTube. So if you wonder why I focus on Patreon, that's why. Patrons, y'all are making anything I do possible, to be honest. Sponsorships. I didn't take a lot this year. I only took 2. I'm very picky about sponsorships, and I made $400 on sponsorships in 2022. Again, I did make more on sponsorships the previous year. So in total, that is an average of $840 a month for a lot of labor. And I do it because I love it, but also in terms of sustainability, right? If you're going to do something like this full time, um, you know, you at some point you do have to be making more than that. So yeah. Here are some of my major expenses. This is not including books because my books come out of this as well. Canva Pro is what I use to make all of my graphics and my thumbnails. That's $120 a year. I pay for an upgraded version of StreamYard. That's $200 a year. My website costs are $188 a year. Somebody is asking, is this net or gross? This is gross. That is gross income. Yeah, not net. Patreon expenses this year was $866. So this is the cost of mailings for some of my higher tier patrons, goodies for like special promotions, shipping costs, all of that came out to that. So my total major expenses for the channel, not including like equipment or books, it was $1,374 for the year. So a very conservative hourly wage estimate for this, if I were working 40 hours a week, which I know I'm doing more than that, would be $4.66 an hour. not great. If it was 60 hours a week, which might be closer to the truth, we're talking like $3.11 an hour. So like I think you can see like that's just like long term that's just not sustainable. And I think this is important to look at not just for me, but also for a lot of other creators. Again, there is variation. So we're going to talk a little bit about where some of the financial variation on how much people might be making comes in, because there are booktubers who are making a lot more than this, but for specific reasons, which is interesting. So we're gonna talk about that. But I just think like a peek behind the curtain at like, because I think sometimes people think it's a lot more than it actually is. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about AdSense, because it varies a lot. The amount of money that you make from AdSense really depends on how many ads are in your video, but also the amount you're making per ad, depending on which advertisers are bidding to be in your video, right? So your views also affect it, subscribers affect it, and controversy sells. So this is something that I think we're going to talk a little bit about in my plans for the coming year, is that you make a lot a lot more, like significantly more, when you do controversial videos, which is understandable. Like it's interesting, drama sells, and I think I'm having to like come to terms with the fact that like being on YouTube, like I value, like I think the work that I'm doing in terms of promoting marginalized authors and stuff, I think that work is so important. But if you can't also have some kind of drama or controversy or something that is getting people to click through, it significantly diminishes how much you're actually making in ad revenue. And I just don't do a lot of that content. Like I'll occasionally dip my toes in, but that will be changing. Not all my content, but I have like a specific goal in mind if we're going to try it, and we'll see how it goes. So yeah, so like a lot of times if you have like your people who are just doing typical reviews and not doing a lot of controversial videos, that you can know that they're probably making significantly less in ad revenue than people who are. Maybe like 3 times less, I would say. Something in the ballpark. Okay. This is the other thing about AdSense. Ad spending is down. With the way the economy has been going, less ad revenue is going to YouTube in the first place. So also the pot is smaller. So it used to be that, because it varies from month to month, right? And so you would see like dips some parts of the year, and then like things would really pick up, especially around the holidays. So like usually in previous years, I would make significantly more in ad revenue around the holiday season. I made less in December than I had in previous months from just ad revenue. And again, like that's not like the bulk of where my income is even coming from. Patreon is a huge part of that. But the ad spending has also been down. So people in general are also just making less on YouTube than they had been. And so you're not getting that boost around the holidays. And some of that spending is going to TikTok, because I think short form content is really getting a boost. But that is another thing that I think is affecting a lot of creators right now. So it is worth noting. So why Patreon? Patreon, I love Patreon. I think Patreon is amazing, and my patrons are incredible. I hear some questions about YouTube Premium. And so for people who are wondering, yes, creators do get paid from YouTube Premium as well. You see it as like a separate line item in your analytics. And so if you use that, the creators you're watching are still getting paid. Okay, so let's talk about Patreon. Why has it been a focus for me? So number one, Patreon, because you have Patreon versus channel memberships. I do offer both. However, I like to have channel memberships available for the people who need it, because I think especially in some countries, it can be really useful. But I significantly prefer Patreon because they take way less money. So Patreon only takes 5% plus some processing fees, which are pretty minimal. YouTube takes 30% of channel memberships, which is like significant. Now, if you join Patreon now as a creator, the rate is 8%. I had joined previously, and so they kind of grandfathered me in at the 5% rate, but like Patreon only takes 5% of of it and YouTube takes 30%. So that is also part of why I prefer Patreon and I push it more than the channel memberships. However, like I want people who can't use Patreon to be able to be involved in some of the stuff I'm offering, which is why I also offer channel memberships. Because like the community piece of that is also important. Again, like this more in I have more income from Patreon than I do from AdSense. Like the people who support what I do are amazing and like make a lot of what I do possible. You have this great community, which I love. It gives me more creative freedom where I can do a lot of things. The fact that I only took 2 sponsorships, which we're going to talk a little bit more about that, and still had like the income that I did is partly due to Patreon. The other thing that's nice about Patreon is I can offer a discount for people who choose the yearly version. You can see it here. You save 8% if you pay annually. So for people who are like, oh, well, I want a discount. I know I want to support you the whole year. You can choose to do it in a lump sum, which I think is cool. So I think they're great. They treat their creators really well, and that has been super helpful. And, for anybody who doesn't know in terms of like what are some of the perks for Patreon for members, some of these perks are more limited for members. Members do get access to like exclusive content and the book club and stuff like that. Some of the other stuff I can only offer through Patreon, but like we have a monthly book club. Patrons get to vote on that. We have private Discord channels for chat, exclusive vlogs and videos. In January, we're doing an exclusive readathon, the Get Shit Done readathon, we'll do reading sprints. I'm really excited about that. A lot of y'all have been excited about it, which I think will be fun. People at some of the tiers get to select books that they want me to vlog and vote on them and like direct some of my content. Some of the higher tiers also include mailings for your birthday and around the holidays, which is fun to put together. We do quarterly watch parties of like a movie, and that's fun. And the highest tier gets to pick one of my yearly favorite books at the end of the year. And over here, we just have our list of, I do also like to, because I am a planner, of course, I also like to do polls well ahead of time. So if you need time to get a book from your library, for instance, you know what the book club pick is going to be. So like I already can tell you, January's Daughter of the Moon Goddess. February, we're reading an indie romance, That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon by Kimberly Lemming. And in March, we're reading a middle grade, Healer of the Water Monster by Brian Young, which is an Indigenous fantasy. So yeah, like we do a lot of really cool stuff and it's really fun. And maybe some people told me I maybe don't talk about it as much as I should. So here you go. Here is our book club from 2022. These are all of the things that we read, and these are all of the things that we watched together. And it's been a really good time. So kind of a look at what are some of the things we've been doing on Patreon. Yeah, I think it's been really great. So let's talk a little bit about sponsorships. This is going to be brief, but basically, I am very picky about sponsorships. I get emails about things. I do research into companies, and if I don't think that they seem like something legitimate, or if I see bad reviews, or if it's something I don't actually care about or don't find useful, I don't take them, which is why I've only taken 2. The other thing is they can be a lot of work. Like there are some companies who want you to jump through a lot of hoops for not a lot of money, and I'm like, I could be doing other things. So I do want to be better about sort of intentionally seeking out slightly more sponsorships in the coming year, which I'll talk about when I get to goals that dovetail with my values and things that I think could actually be useful for people on this channel. But like there's a lot of stuff that I'm like, no, no. Yeah. So that's that. So let's talk about plans and goals for 2023 a little bit, and then we're going to talk about, I'm going to take some questions for anybody who has them. This is going much faster than I thought I would, to be honest, which is great. I did want to take a look at this. Yes, this is accurate. Subscriber count and views do not necessarily translate into money. There it varies, right? Like there are booktubers who are getting a lot of views after a few hours. They probably are making more. The other thing is that you can make more if you do have a very high subscriber count. Your rates go up higher than what mine is. Mine is kind of like mid-range, but like once you get to a certain point, your ad rates can go up just because you do have so many people. And there are people with fewer subscribers than me who make more money than I do because of controversial videos that get more clicks and higher ad rates, for instance. So It varies significantly. Okay, so this is kind of my question going into 2023 of like, can this still be sustainable, or do I need to like go hunt for another job or find something to supplement and decrease my content? I love what I do. I mean, that's why I've been doing it consistently for so long, even though like it's not like the pay has been amazing, but I am getting to a point with my kids being in school, with like wanting to finish paying off my student loan debt and like all of that, where I'm like, okay, like I need like it's just not sustainable as is. So, this is kind of my like, here are my things I'm going to try and see if this helps and see if I can grow this to where it can be sustainable potentially, to keep doing it full time. And if not, then, like I will look for other work and figure it out. But like this is, yeah, yes, the clickbait pays. It is sadly very true. But I get it. I mean, like, why not? All right, so plans and goals 2023 and beyond. First up, I'm going to continue to emphasize Patreon. I think I've talked about why it has been so valuable for me, why I love it. I have some goals for Patreon, some specific goals, and I also am offering some cool perks for hitting milestones. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a future slide. I also have opened up video commissions for reading vlogs. I haven't talked really much about this. So I don't know if y'all know that this is an option, and it's kind of expensive. You may not want to do it. But if you're like, I desperately want you to read this book for a reading vlog, you can pay me to do it. You can do it through Patreon. You can do it through Ko-fi. You can also do it through channel memberships. But again, because they take such a high percentage, it's more expensive to do it that way. But those links are in the video description. So if you're interested, you can pay to see what I think about a video. I also do have beta reading. Again, it's not cheap because it's time consuming. And also, if you want to be published traditionally, you don't need to pay for a beta reader. But if anybody is an author who really specifically would like to know my very honest feedback on their book, you can do that through Ko-fi. So far, I think nobody has been interested, which is totally fine, but it's there if somebody is. Okay. I am also thinking I might try to think about strategic plans for sponsorships or partnering with companies that would fit for me, maybe trying to do something quarterly in the coming year and see how that goes. I'm also going to make some updates based on some research I've done to my rate card and like how I charge for things like exclusivity and rights to use the content that I create, stuff like that. These are things that if you are a content creator, you should be looking into, because a lot of companies will try to get it from you for free, and they really should not be getting your labor for free. So get paid for labor you are doing. They can probably afford it. They just don't want to. Okay. I'm going to see how shorts monetization goes. They are going to start, says they're going to start monetizing shorts for creators this year. And I have no idea how much that's going to be. So we'll see. Like, I'm going to see if that makes any kind of a difference. I don't know if it will, but I'm going to keep making some shorts and kind of see what happens. And then I've made it a goal for myself to once a month make a video that is controversial or semi-controversial for the algorithm and see if that helps. So, for January, you're getting two. You're getting one about money, and then I'll have my worst books of the year list. But yeah, so I'm going to try to be thoughtful about how I do that, because I don't want to just do things that are not within my value system. However, sometimes there are things that I am talking about within other videos already that I'm just not singling out as its own video, that I could, so I may do more of that. So we'll see. I'm going to try to do one a month and see what happens. So, my husband was like, "Yeah, you could call it your nice girl rants." I'm like, "Thanks." Like, being nice on the internet is not, yeah, not terribly helpful. And like, even if you try to be nice, like people still don't like you because, you support marginalized voices and things like that. Okay. And then also I may look into whether there are paid opportunities for writing reviews for publications. I do write reviews for all of the books that I read on Goodreads. I'm one of their top reviewers. And, who knows? Maybe there's somebody out there who wants to pay me to do that, because I'm already doing it. So we'll see. So those are kind of my plans. These are some financial benchmarks for me to be sustainable. I don't know if this is realistic. We'll see. We're gonna try these things and see. But this is kind of my benchmark is by the end of 2023, like within this year, I would like to go from 10,000 a year to having made 20,000 in the year, 2024 to 35 and 2025 to 50. I don't know that that's doable, but who knows? We'll see. The thing is that if I were to go out and get a regular job in say marketing, which I have the skills for, the average entry level marketing salary for New York City is $51,000 a year. So, I mean, and there are jobs that are entry level that are paying $70,000 a year. So like I could go out and get a full-time job and make a lot more. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. So we'll see how it goes. But this is kind of what I'm aiming for and some of the ways that I'm aiming to do it. And yeah, I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I wanted to kind of let y'all know. I do have a Patreon campaign that just started. If you're interested, we're kicking it off in January. If you join, or I didn't add this, but or upgrade, in January, you will get a book in the mail from me, which is kind of fun. And everybody, current, upgrading, new, existing patrons, will get a bookmark if I have your address on file. So I'll design something fun for the new year. My current patron count, active patrons, is 58. And for every new 10 patrons, I will do an exclusive video or challenge, and patrons will get to vote on it. Some people seem very interested in getting a bookshelf tour. This, whatever it is, will be exclusive to Patreon and channel members. But yeah, so if you're interested in joining, this is what I'm doing. But I think hopefully a takeaway from this is if you find value in not just my content, but other content on the internet, go support your faves in whatever way you're able. And, if you're not able to support financially, I think we all totally understand that. However, if you are able to, I think just keep in mind that there is a lot of effort and thought and time that goes into reviewing books and creating content that is helpful for people. And, the income piece of it is difficult for many of us. And so, if you have people that you love and people whose content you find useful, if you're able to financially support them, do so, you know? Yeah. Questions. So that's my slideshow. Does anybody have any questions or comments? I'll take a look at some of the more recent things. Hey, Beth, so what can we do to help if we are already patrons? What else can we do to help? That is a great question. Also, thank you so much, Beth, you're wonderful. Thank you so much for all of your support. You've been seriously amazing. Like sharing is helpful. Like watching, another thing too is that videos get more reach on YouTube when the views early on are higher. Like it'll, especially for like channels that aren't already enormous. So one thing you can do is do if you're able to, if you have time, or even if you're watching it in the back, like playing it in the background or something. But if somebody's video has just gone live and you're able to give them that watch time early on, that's going to help YouTube push it out to more people. That's something you can do to kind of increase reach. You know, sharing, interacting with the video, liking, commenting, like all of that stuff does increase reach as well. And it's also part of why I do a lot of premieres. I'm able to because I do it full time and I enjoy it because I like interacting with people, but it is also something that helps increase reach. So that's part of why I do that. So that's a great question. Yes. Key is to be thoughtful about controversial videos. Some are over the top and annoying and Yes, yeah. And that's part of why I've stayed away from it because I don't like to be just like controversial for no reason. But I will say there are videos that I haven't made because I didn't want to like deal with the like negativity or the ruffled feathers that I could make that I talk about and like issues that I am already talking about like in a wrap up or in a live stream. I'm just not calling it out as a specific video, and that maybe part of what I do to stretch myself is to make that its own video, not partly because it would get more views, but also because maybe I want to raise awareness about something that's a little controversial. So yeah, so I don't want to just like do things for no reason. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. I'm glad this was helpful. How important is growth to subscribers or patrons to reach your goals? What kind of growth did I have from 2021 into 2022, and what do I need? Um, yeah, it's an interesting question. I did not have as much growth this year in subscribers as the previous year. Had a little bit of growth, which is fine. Like, I think it's normal for channels to plateau. Patreon has grown, um, and I think is doing okay. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, it does, like, my Patreon does need to grow for it to be financially sustainable. And I do think too that for me, it's also less about just having more subscribers on my channel and more about increasing the reach of the videos that I'm putting out. Because I might have 15,000 subscribers, but I'm not getting anywhere near that number of views on the videos I am posting. And so that creates some problems as well. So that's really more what I'm focused on. Yes, early watching helps. So, yeah. Renee, love when you recommended books to different political people. That was fun. That's like the spiciest video I probably made in 2022, and it was fun to make, to be honest, recommending video books to my ideological enemies. Yeah, that was a fun one. Elizabeth, would making more videos a month contribute to a higher income? Not necessarily. I already make a lot of videos. I make way more than most people do. And like, there are a few that make more money than others. Like, some of them just don't make very much. They make like 20 bucks or something like that, and it's yeah, it's more what kinds of videos are you making and what is the reach of them. And some things are passion projects. You make some videos because you love it and you want to do it, and then you do some because you're trying to get it out there. Johnny, I try to like as many videos as I can, even if they're old. The algorithm favors engagement. This is great. Yes, absolutely. The algorithm really does. Do you notice evergreens providing revenue years later? I do. Yes, that is absolutely. It's funny. There's one video that I haven't privated just because I still make like $30 a month, $30 a month from it. That was like a review of a weight loss program from like 4 years ago. And it still gets views. So yeah, evergreen content absolutely is helpful. Evergreen is, for those who don't know, content that is searchable. So my monthly wrap ups, people are going to watch it that month. Not a lot of people are going to watch it later. Whereas list videos of like, here's 10 queer sci-fi books or whatever, like some of that stuff, or specific kinds of vlog projects or reviews or whatever, those can continue to generate revenue. And yes, those can be great. Right. We can easily rant without making something out of nothing. Exactly. Exactly. Jessica, yes. Oh, the religious trauma book videos. Oh yeah, I did those early in the year. You know what? And I was gonna do more, but then it was affecting my own mental health, and I was talking to my therapist, and I was like, I think I need a break from doing like revisiting all of my religious trauma on the internet. So maybe one day I'll return to that and do more of those. But yeah, it was just that was a lot. Jurassic reads, hey, I'd be super interested in maybe a growth specific video for your stats here in BookTube and on Patreon. Yeah. That would be really interesting actually. I would be interested to look at that because I haven't specifically looked at that, but maybe I can look into that. How does my merch perform? Not well. Like, when I first released it, I got a few things, but I don't really, I mean, it's there, but like, not great. Part of it too is that like I am not a graphic designer. Um but then also, like, people seemed to like the idea of doing the, like, haunted ring light thing, and I think one person bought a shirt, which is, like, it's fine, I'm glad I did it, it was fun, but, people say they like the idea of merch, but I don't know that people actually really purchase it, and it's not like you make that much from it, so I wouldn't say that that is a big income thing. Oh, another thing that I do earn from, though, is, Amazon links. So I get like a small, it's not a ton, but like it adds up a little bit, like a small commission when people click through and buy stuff. Even if it's not the thing they clicked to within anything within 24 hours that they buy on that web page after clicking, I get a small commission for. Um, Beth, one thing I noticed, growth channels often connect with popular channels for buddy reads and co-hosting read-alongs to get their names on big channels. Yes. Um, Yeah, they do. And this is I think where I run into some trouble is that like I try really hard to Like, be genuine about the connections I make with other creators. And, like, I do stuff with larger channels sometimes, but I also try to bring on channels that I think deserve more attention. Um, yeah, I don't know. There's some interesting stuff behind the scenes sometimes with those dynamics. Hey, how's it going? You're welcome. Was wondering, is there a difference in income if we watch live shows live or later? Not specifically. I- with live shows, no. I mean, I think it does get pushed out to more people the more people who are watching it live, but that so like, but in terms of like from one view, it doesn't change the income. Do I include time spent reading as part of work hours, or is that just video creating? Is that 40 hours a week? What is your average per week? That's a good question. I haven't specifically tracked it. Um, I probably should. I think I haven't because I work all the time and I worry that I'm going to feel like, what am I doing with my life if I actually track the number of hours that I work, including reading? Some of it is reading. I normally just include that if it's like for a specific video, like if I'm vlogging um, a book, like where I'm reading the book and then creating content around that specific book, that would be work time. So some of my reading is more like for fun, but even just things like making videos, editing videos, managing the channel, doing work for Patreon. There's a lot. There's like a lot of things that go into it, and it is pretty time intensive. You think I should do more recommendation videos? Yeah, I think that might be a great idea. I can do that. If people have specific kinds of videos they would like to see for me or lists of recommendations, feel free to leave them, and I might try to create kind of a list of things. Do I feel like YouTube membership contributes as well to your income as Patreon? Does one benefit me more than the other? Yeah, I did mention that during this. Patreon definitely benefits me more because YouTube takes 30% of whatever people are paying, which is a lot. I don't mind having channel memberships, and they're like it's something. And but I think honestly more of why I offer the memberships is because I want people who can't do Patreon for various reasons to be included in the things that I'm doing. So it's more of an inclusivity thing than like a income thing. So, um, thanks, Renee. You know what? I will say it is kind of funny. I never know who buys things through the links. Like I don't get there's no names attached, but I do see the things that people buy through my links, and like occasionally there are some interesting things like, adult toys, for instance, which is I mean, it's, whatever. I'll take it. It's just it's always kind of interesting. Sometimes there's like random stuff. Hey Alex, I think shout outs can help, but the growth just isn't there. Yeah. Yeah, Alex, and I think you've had a rough experience with that specifically. Shout outs can help. I think shout outs help more when you are very new, like when you're very small. Those can make a big difference just to kind of get some visibility. But I think once you've been around for a while, yeah, I don't know that that's yeah, I think it requires some specific things to help. Right, you could click the yes, exactly. You could click the book link on Amazon, buy an Xbox, and the creator would get a much higher amount of money because you purchased a big ticket item using their link. That is exactly correct. Are there grants available for what I do? Huh. That is an interesting thought. I don't know. Like some kind of a creative grant. That is really interesting. Renee. I mean, I don't look at it all the time, but there's been a couple times that I've like peeked at like the list and I'm like, I don't know who's buying it. I just think it's funny. So, author interviews or celebrity book recommendations or booktuber interviews. Yeah, I do want to do more of those. I will say one thing that performs really well for me has been my panel discussion videos. That is something that does really well for me. Like I make a reasonable amount from them, but also they get higher views than some of my other videos, which is why I've really leaned into trying to do one about about once a month. And I do have some author interviews coming. In fact, in a couple weeks, I've got Kate Elliott, which I'm very excited about. For um, yeah, the dream would be to get N.K. Jemisin, which maybe I should just try to reach out and get that. That would be amazing. I love her so much. But yeah, More author interviews for sure would be great. To clarify about Rex, it is not so much to your core viewers, but titles with top 10 and where to start with XYZ that have a chance to reach new people. Yes, this is accurate. But sometimes coming up with like what are those lists that would be interesting for people can be tricky. I have made quite a few in the past, and some of them do continue to some of them do continue to perform well. Sounds I love this idea. Sounds like an opportunity. Romance Rex, and here's a handy link to Amazon toys. You know what? That is not a terrible idea. Hmm. Maybe for Valentine's Day, we'll have to give some thought to that. That'd be funny. An NYC tour with NK Jemisin would be a yeah, I mean, that would be amazing. I would love to chat with her. All my top videos of 2022 were recommendation lists, live show panels, and discussion videos. Yeah, listen, I mean, that is a lot of what does really well, I think, which is interesting. I think my wrap-ups also actually do really well in the short term, and then some of these other ones I think do really well in the long term. So people like my wrap-ups and my TBRs. Beth, I'd love to see you do a video of genre fiction as entertainment versus literature and perceived conflict. Oh, that would be very interesting actually. Let me write that down. Genre fiction as entertainment versus literature. Yeah. That would be actually, honestly, that would be an interesting discussion topic for a panel. Um, Renee, I know one therapist I follow had a sponsor that was an adult toy. She was like, "Practice self-care." Listen, I mean, yeah, why not? I think that's great. Um, yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like maybe I need to be better about reaching out to brands because there are brands that I would love to work with that I believe in. So we'll see. Love the live show panels. I'm so glad. They're fun to do. They're a lot of work to organize, which I think people don't always think about because you have to like reach out to all the people you want and like figure out a time that works for everybody and like create all anyway. So like there's a lot of organization behind the scenes that goes into this kind of stuff, but I enjoy doing it and they do well. Heather says my wrap ups are usually in my top 5 for each month. Yep. Yep. They're usually my top couple. Renee says, Beth, that sounds fabulous, or something about what makes certain fiction popular, but maybe not the best quality. I mean, that is also really interesting, to be honest, and I think dovetails with a secret project I'm working on. So that would be really interesting. Yeah, I love the ideas. What makes fiction popular but not great quality? I mean, this is like what the Twilight effect, right? Or the Colleen Hoover effect. Which is there, I think it's fine to like popcorn reads, but it is interesting the difference between quality versus Bird and Blend tea. Oh, they are good. Though they're in the UK. I don't know. But yeah. Yeah. So hopefully this is informative. I just was like, you know what? Let me be a little bit transparent about where I'm at and what I'm doing. Really enjoyed my group live stream discussions in 2022. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, we did a lot of really good ones, and I had some amazing people on. And I guess one thing that I like about that too is I try and again, like, I don't talk about this publicly, and I don't know that people necessarily think about it, but I also try to be really intentional about who I invite onto live streams. I try to have a balance of, like, some bigger content creators who, maybe will be a draw for people, and some smaller content creators who I think deserve more attention, and, like, not all white creators. Like, I really and sometimes it is what it is because like the people who are available are the people who are available, but in general I do try to be really like thoughtful about how I organize those. So yeah. Ah, thank you. I appreciate it. Well, and that's what somebody was telling me. She was saying like, yeah, you should just say something because I didn't think about joining your Patreon until you mentioned it and it reminded me. So, like that's true. It's like maybe sometimes just don't people don't think about it. It might be cool to compare a popcorn read to a classic that did the same thing. Oh, yeah. like Colleen Hoover compared to an 18th century writer who did it better. No, I think that's interesting, but I also think what's interesting is that some of the things we call classics today were popular fiction when they came out. So like Charles Dickens, Jane Austen, like we consider them to be classics now, but in the time, they were just popular fiction that everybody was reading. So I just think that's interesting too, how like age and like having been around a long time can elevate how we think of a piece of work. It's like all of that is so interesting. Love the transparency. While not a creator, I'm always curious about behind the scenes. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I hope it's helpful. And I don't expect everybody to be this transparent about all of their numbers, but I think sometimes it can be useful to get a peek at it. And I know it does vary for people. Yes, I had BookTube Goddess on a discussion. That was fun. She was lovely. Um, Thank you, Beth. Says it's obvious I put thought into who I include in discussions and I appreciate it. Also, for those who are wondering, I had a comment which I'm trying to be more thoughtful about that actually reading the comments in live streams makes it more accessible to people who can't read it. And so I am trying to read comments aloud if I'm going to discuss them so that I can make this more accessible. It's like things like that that I don't think about. What makes a classic? Yeah, that would be interesting. Heather, I try to have diversity in my panels while having people who like the topic, are good on camera, and not overusing my favorite participants. Yes, this this is difficult. Although also Heather, I think I've only been on your channel like once, so I'm just saying you're not overusing me if you wanted me for something, but it's fine. um Jessica, yes, I noticed. That's what made me join your Patreon in the first place. I love how inclusive you made your content. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm glad to know that it shows up because it is something that I try really hard to do and try to learn more all the time because there's a lot I don't know and I'm always learning. So, yeah, and I think that's part of why I do want to try to make this a sustainable thing for me to do long term because I feel like there's a lot of value in creating this content. And I know there are people who find a lot of value in it, but like it's got to also be financially sustainable. And so that's part of why I'm going to try some things this year and we'll see how it goes. And hopefully, um, we see some things happen. So hopefully this is helpful and interesting, helpful maybe for content creators too, or people who are thinking about starting a channel. I love it. I love doing this a lot, obviously. I mean, I wouldn't have done it for this long, like otherwise, but yeah, it's been great. You had me twice. Okay. Maybe you did. Uh, I might have maybe I forgot one of the things. I just remember one, but it might have been twice. That's fine. Try to be respectful of people who already have 90 million commitments. I mean, I do. And I'll say no if I guess this is the thing is I do not have a problem saying no to things and I don't have a problem with people saying no to me. Because I understand that people are busy, but you can always ask. And I appreciate people who ask. And I'm sorry for people who I've said no to because sometimes I just can't do stuff. Um But I also don't take it personally when people say no to me when I ask them. Like, I try to tell Jess Owens because I was like, "You can tell me no, it's okay." And now she does, which is great. I'm like, "Don't feel pressured if it's too much. I'm inviting you because I like having you, but like, if you can't do it, you can't do it. It's cool." So anyway, uh, Bronwyn, I joined your Patreon because I find your content so interesting, but I also love your energy. The panel discussions are awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that a lot. Thank y'all. Y'all are amazing. Definitely why I wanted to join too. It felt like you were trying to create a genuine and inclusive community. Yeah. Thank you guys. Listen, I have amazing patrons and channel members. You all are amazing. And I really appreciate that you guys find value in what I'm trying to do. So yeah, that's great. Thanks, Heather. Okay, so if there are no more burning questions, I guess I will end it there. We're at like 48 minutes, but if you have any other final thoughts or questions, you are welcome to throw them in there. I'll give it a minute before I end the stream. But yeah. And then I have to work on all of my January content because I've got lots of like lists coming. So all of my best of lists will be coming shortly, but I thought let's like begin the year with this. And yeah, it's been good. Ah, Beth says, you guys nailed what makes Bethany's Patreon different and so valuable. Thank you all. Thank you guys. I try to make it as inclusive as possible and I try to make it fun and um like something that is enjoyable for people. And there are people who like do it and just kind of like lurk and there are people who are very involved and like all of that is welcome. So, anyway. All right. Thank you guys. Happy New Year's. I hope you have a wonderful day. And I will be back in the next couple days with lots more end of year lists and content. And I hope you have a wonderful 2023 with lots of really great books. See you next time. Bye.